Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we are going to be carrying on with the serial story, Evolution. This is part 3. Here is the invitation that is summoning us to the club. Also a notification that Godfall is apparently available in the sailing destination. Interesting, I believe this is sending us to Port Cecil, so this could be a more involved episode than previous. It may be many episodes, I don't know. But let's go to the club. Another letter arrives, sealed with golden wax. It mentions a time, it mentions a place. The place, of course, is Orchard House. To expedite your arrival, the Dillman Club has seen fit, as the implaceable detective's unmistakable handwriting informs you, provide your transportation to the next meeting. It is also a friendly suggestion that you could compile a report about your research with the Youthful Naturalist. Fervent speculation abounds, and records need straightening. Let's have a ride to Orchard House. A private carriage is scheduled to collect you. Already waiting inside the carriage, a super-annotated explorer pats your seat with an encouraging smile. Big night, I understand. All on your account, eh? The muffled driver makes no comment as you climb aboard. A lashed whip, and the horses nod off. Wheels rattling, carriage rocking, the super-annotated explorer swaying. As you pass gas lamps, their beam gild his face. You glimpse a scar running under his chin. Through a blind eye, around a mutated ear. Caution, he simply remarks. Caution is in the place in the Elder Continent? Every window in Orchard House is blazing with candlelight. An accommodating footman rushes to help the explorer down from the carriage when you arrive. Don't dilly-dally, the explorer calls back to you, toddling toward the front door with the footman's for support. Or the canapes will get cold. It's time to present your research to the Dillman Club. Everyone is gathered in the solar. His amused lordship's favourite, horse rot, is on the menu again, and his lordship is demonstrating his appreciation. The super-annotated explorer has installed himself in an armchair with a brandy. The woman in green is smoking a cigar. The unlikely florist coughs. The Bishop of St. Fiacres whispers to Fiduci, while the accommodating footman bustles to filleth a thirsty croupier's glass. All members are seated along the walls, rather like jurors in a court, which would make the implaceable detective presiding by the great black box at the room's centre, the judge. Now that you have arrived, he is ready to call this meeting to order. As everyone here is aware, he begins with a meaningful look towards you. I conducted research earlier in my career, at a more naive period, into a hypothetical mechanism for achieving biological immortality. To this day, I'm still friendly with the bright minds at the Department of Exploratory Cartographic Zoology, but I gave that research up. The road, in my final analysis, led nowhere worth travelling. He isn't the only one looking at you now. Or so I thought. Our newest has made promising discoveries. The research may bear re-evaluation and perhaps even merit funding. If the newest can convince the club. All eyes are on you as the Dillman Club anticipates your report. Your sponsor's gaze, however, occasionally roves around the room, watching the other members. How might they react? How much do they already know? The candlelight is uncommonly hot. A space has been cleared for you to stand beside the black box. You have your research ready. We seem to have a few options here. We can present our research with measured interpretation. Your experiment with the Youthful Naturalist yielded these results. whatever opinions anyone may or may not have about the matter, this data is accurate. We can present our research with an optimistic interpretation. Your experiments yielded results, and what results they are. Do the club members realize what wonders you've truly accomplished with the Youthful Naturalist? Or we can present our research with a cautious interpretation. The results from your experiment with the Youthful Naturalist might be considered dangerous for many reasons. Biological, theological, extra-legal, or taxonomic. I am going to present these with optimistic interpretation. You explain how, with certain specialized tools and an accurate map, one anatomy might be transmuted into another, and potentially into an anatomy resistant to death's touch. Perhaps you allied a few grisly details to paint a brighter picture, but the Bishop of St. Fiacre's consents with his clergyman's ear, which has heard so many confessions, that you might be colouring the truth.
Bosh,
says his amused lordship.
This news is exciting enough for the scalpel.
I wasn't aware that excitement was held in such high regard by prestigious medical journals, replies the bishop. One would think accuracy matters more.
Clearly this man doesn't read the scalpel,
says his lordship, elbowing the bishop with a wink at the implacable detective. He doesn't react, but the room fizzes with curiosity. Raised voices fill Orchard House, like the champagne that the accommodating footman is already pouring for his amused lordship. Each opinion is another bubble. His lordship proposes a toast.
To knowledge.
Which the bishop, however, politely declines. Something about temperance. The woman in green still has a cigar clenched between her teeth, and now she's scribbling rapidly to record the minutes as everyone talks. Let's attend the conversation. Quite a few people have a lot to say, and did someone mention champagne? It's already decided, despite the bishop's reservations, which, when pressed, he never seems willing to articulate fully. You can taste new funding with each sip. Even the implacable detective raises no objections. After all, why not? Asks the unlikely florist. The germination needs more time. We might as well explore multiple avenues at once. We have the Grazzini account, don't we? Everyone waits for the thirsty croupier to run the numbers through his head. There's enough liquid, he confirms. His amused lordship holds out another bottle. Verducci's blade is a blur, and the bottle's cork has suddenly been popped. Champagne sprays over the room. The accommodating footman is rushing here and there for more champagne. He can't keep up with the Dillman's Club's ebullience until after the details of your funding have been settled. The implacable detective calls for everyone's attention again. Knowledge is what we toast, he says, and knowledge is what the newest shall receive. The club now admits the newest into a deeper confidence, as we agreed. We can be admitted into deeper confidence. Bring out the jar, says the detective to the footman. I sure hope this isn't some weird hazing thing. Normally, the discreet Sybarite would attend such an important meeting, as she did when you were first inducted. But she hasn't made an appearance lately. This is why, says the implacable detective. The accommodating footman places a large jar, carefully, without sloshing it, on the table. There is something dead inside, with many teeth. If it weren't black and rancid, it would look like a bloated pink slug. Some call them traitor tongues. They come from Klein. They are tools wielded by the College of Mortality. The detective lowers her spectacles to look at you directly, and they burrow. Notwithstanding the dead thing in the jar on the table, the other club members are still drinking champagne. although with much less fanfare than before.
Damn it, this keeps happening,
grumbles his lordship to Viducci.
Why is it always a constable or a priest who has to spoil the mood?
Let's ask about the College of Mortality. We're all potential targets now, the implacable detective tells you. Viducci steps forward and begins to recite. In the garden is the design. In the garden occurred the ascents. In the garden were selected the shames. Therefore none shall enter it without that they be blinded with thorns and bound with 3 oaths. And should any seek to alter the design, or repeat the ascent, or uncover the shames, they shall be given to the waxwind. Before he says anything else, he draws a concealed dagger and promptly stabs the dead thing in the jar. A little gasp travels around the room as he grinds the blade back and forth. Only the implacable detective fails to react with surprise. These so-called tongues can reveal their host's deepest thoughts, says Viducci. When the college captures an enemy, ignorance is the only defense. You may appreciate the risk, therefore, that this knowledge itself entails, continues the detective. Simply holding it in your brain could be interpreted as a threat to the design. You may also appreciate the risk that your funding poses. Now hopefully, you have enough information to assess the situation with greater fullness. She lifts her champagne. To knowledge, indeed, she says, taking a sip. All the other members want to shake your hand. There are speeches and congratulations. There is also some discussion about finding a newest. Now that you know what you know, you're unfit to conduct certain business for the club, for which a less vulnerable mind is required. That can wait. Tonight, the thirsty croupier is counting out your funds. The woman in green is documenting the financials, and the accommodating footman is finishing off the canapes when he thinks nobody is looking. We can accept funding for our research. The Youthful Naturalist ought to be very pleased by this outcome. I didn't want to burden you, whispers the super-annotated explorer when he shakes your hand. Neither did the bishop. She argued persuasively. He nods towards the detective, who is chatting with Viducci. And we were outvoted. All I can say is be careful, my friend. The bishop withholds further commentary, sitting in the corner with his champagne still untouched. His amused lordship, however, slaps you on the back.
Nice bit of pocket change, eh? Just enough for a test. See how far this gets you. Return with another report and we'll see what else we can do. I eagerly await our next meeting.
Put to Z at Wolfstack Docks and enter the captain's cabin. You can now chart another course to the tomb colonies to deliver the news to the Youthful Naturalist. Be careful with your rosy gold. You will need to spend it later. I think we will be okay, but 30,000 pieces of rusty gold. I now have 74,000. That's a lot. So, we must go to the tomb colonies. Let's put to sea at Wolfstack Docks. Here it is, travel to the tomb colonies. You are once again bound for disgraced exile. But you sail triumphantly. The Dillman Club has approved the Youthful Naturalist's research, and a tidy academic grant. Despite your success at Orchard House, however, sailors mutter when you pass. You glimpse masked figures in the dockside crowds. They're gone when you look again. You hear rumours about yourself concerning your next port of call that are too true for comfort. Even if you know these waters, it would be wise to map out an evasive route. We need a relatively safe Z-lane. Luckily, I prepared that ahead of time. In the syphilitic parrot, they're talking about privateers that have gone missing recently. In the blind helmsman, cutthroats for hire are discussing business opportunities. and one rowdy corsair is boasting about an offer. She captains the Fluke's Folly, which the Mythendrake office would like to charter. "How's that for gainful employment?" she asks the crowd with a laugh. You plot your course, not according to the undersea's currents, but to sail around the gossip. If you take this route, you should circumvent the worst rumours, and if you weigh anchor here just for an hour or so, you'll avoid other unsavoury whispers. Okay, let me just sail against the sea's currents. And here we are, dock in disgraced exile at the Tomb Colonies. Once ashore, your scandal will increase substantially, and you will not be able to leave until you reunite with the Youthful Naturalist. Here we go again. The road to knowledge, yet again, my dear, winds contrary to social acceptance. Back along these dusty avenues. In this case, however, perhaps the risk of a tarnished reputation, which keeps so many at bay, is a boon rather than a burden. In the view of the flotilla that my lookout sighted some leagues from the coast, even pirates have social standings. Nevertheless, all the crew is agreed upon lingering as briefly as possible on this visit to the colonies, lest our movements become more widely known. I must contact my youthful colleague, report the news from the club, and prepare to sail again as soon as the tide. Oh, that was easy. He's right there, reuniting with the Youthful Naturalist. It was simple to locate my colleague again. He's been making his name, even in this remote colony, amongst the exiled academics, whose research he has, with their encouragement, plundered. Would it have been better, my dear, had it been more difficult to track him down? Might a lesser reputation have, on this occasion, cultivated a greater safety? Heaven knows I do not always shun the public eye, but when one considers the risk. I told him about the Dillman Club. He was overjoyed to hear the news, until I started to elaborate. Typical of the bishop, remarking that his old patron would never approve, but expressed great concern when I mentioned another detail. I dare not mention it now, to preserve your own safety, my dear. Some knowledge, like blood in the water, it draws sharks. He proceeded to unroll a number of maps. I mistook them for Z-charts before he explained their anatomical context. He has made further leaps with the detective's notes, but she is still trying to stop us, or else why would she tell you such a thing? My news has increased his eagerness to leave. We set sail again. My colleague believes, not unreasonably, that we were being followed. This will reduce your scandal to 0, returning you to the captain's cabin so that you can chart another course across the undersea. We need to move quickly, says the Youthful Naturalist. He paces your cabin, reviewing the Z-charts that aren't Z-charts. I've managed to assemble these, but they're not comprehensive. If we're going to unlock the body, we need to know precisely which doors to open. Lady H was easy. We didn't stray far from the natural path, but I want to go where the road forks. Right here. He points to another map. This time, it is a Z-chart. Port Cecil, he says. Let's see what the coral can teach us. Now this is an interesting moment. I meant to learn the location of Port Cecil before I started recording and I forgot. Can I go to my possessions here? Will it let me? No, I'm in a thing. It won't let me. I need to use a puzzling map. Okay, well. What I would like to do... Oh, it's cartography. I'm looking for map, but it's cartography, isn't it? It's up here. There it is. I need to use these puzzling maps, or is it partial maps? It's one of those things. I guess we could just try and do it the way that it wants to do it, I guess. We can compare notes with the Youthful Naturalist. There's a conspicuous shortage of tinned eels in your ship's larder. I'm guessing this is just recapping what we've already done. There is a conspicuous shortage of tinned eels in your ship's larder. Apart from that, however, it's easy to forget that the youthful naturalist is aboard. He keeps below decks and keeps to himself, reading books and reviewing his notes, but he's always open to scholarly chat with his favourite captain. We can discuss the Kingdom of Klein. Its towering citadel still catches the mountain's light in your memory. You spend very little time in Klein yourself, just enough to acquire the shell of regret from the shrouded man. But before your arrival, the youthful naturalist had already conducted extensive research on his own. Here, do you see, he says, showing you world diagrams. These patterns represent emotions linked to specific moments in a person's life. With enough data like this, we'll be able to read the biological world like a history book. He closes his journal and tosses it into the pile with a curt laugh. Of course, they're all regrets in Klein. We'd have to expand our sample size. We can discuss Hunter's Keep. The implacable detective's research led you to a certain well. I keep looking at her maps. There's more to this island than I thought, and she probably didn't explain herself, did she? Giving us just enough rope. Hunter's Keep is conveniently close to the Fifth City. One reason she must have chosen this spot to hide the stone tentacle key. But judging by the diagrams in her research, quite a few rivers also run through the area. Rivers on such a small island? Asks the youthful naturalist. If not for the well and the house, this map could be mistaken for a circulatory system. And there's something else. Frost moths. Her notes describe swarms. Native? Or attracted to the key. And we can discuss the tomb colonies. Your experiment with Lady H and the dusty ornithologist. Very illuminating. Lady H supported me even when I was at Benthic. She was one of the few, along with my mentor, but he was always more curmudgeonly. He is eternally grateful to Lady H, and can never stop heaping her with praise. It takes courage to do what she did, and now, thanks to her help, we've demonstrated doors exist in the barriers between species, doors that can be unlocked, not merely at nature's chaotic whim, with a key. Doors that can be opened not after millennia, but in a day. It goes beyond shaping flesh, but a frost moth is the next step in the straight and narrow path we already walk. That door was practically open. I would like to chart a course to... I could go back to London, use my map, and then go to Port Cecil. This seems like the only path I have here. Hang on. It's going to use up a lot of my actions, which is slightly annoying, but we'll do it anyway. Unless we just magically find it here. Oh, hello. Blood in the water. Even before they reach you, the water turns red. You smell roses in the air. And then, through the mists that hang over the Z, you see a ship's lantern flash. Another signals in the dark. Their lights are burning through the fog, pinpricks like stars that surround your vessel. Faster, says the youthful naturalist, his voice trembling. Can't we go any faster? We have two options. We can full steam ahead, feed the engines, court the currents, pray to salt and storm for speed, or we can return the signals. What's the hurry? These ships might be trying to tell you something. Let's return the signals. Ah. The ships don't respond to your signal, but they are getting closer. What are you doing? Cries the youthful naturalist. You'll get us killed! More lights surround your vessel. An entire fleet cutting through the bloody Z. Their flags stitched with skulls, crossed blades, serpents knotted into black sigils. Hanged men, crowns, hourglasses, ragtag tugboats and stolen sloops. Frigates with cannons that boom. A geyser erupts to starboard, rising from a cannonball planted into the waves. You recognize the fluke's folly. Certain rumours caught up to you. We're being attacked by pirates. Spend enough time at Z, and any captain will contend with the outlaws who launch from Geiger's Morn to make the Zailing lanes into their hunting grounds. But these ships are unlike other privateers. Great tripods smoulder on their decks, filling the air with incense. The Fluke's Folly glides beside you. Drawn daggers gleam, grappling hooks soar, bloody waves clot around your prow, slowing your progress to a crawl. We have 3 options. We can call the crew to action. All hands on deck. To arms! To arms. We can battle the invaders ourselves. You won't just stand around while enemies overrun your ship. Or we can navigate the clotting currents. Direct your helmsman to clearer waters where you can gather more speed. So if we call our crew to action, we have a 91% chance. We can battle them ourselves for an 80% chance. Or we can navigate a 70%. Can I? I'm wearing the wrong outfit. Let's go for hard wearing outfit here. We can get a 91% chance to battle them ourselves. Let's go. They crawl aboard, wriggling along ropes and chains, tossing more hooks to haul themselves onto your ship. And you're prepared to meet them. But they do not wince. They do not cry out in pain. They hardly react when you smash their skulls together, seize a cutlass from an unconscious corsair, and swashbuckle your way through the oncoming horde. "Zealots!" says the youthful naturalist, firing a disarmed pirate's pistol into that self-same pirate's face. "They don't care about death. Why would they?" The pirate twitches on your deck, just like a landed fish. You hear the pistol again. Ooh, okay, we get to do it again. Let's call our crew into action, but I'm going to be slightly more persuasive this time around. You do more than command your crew. Your voice itself, its volume, its control, snaps them to action. Whenever the cloying incense clouds their thoughts, and you must do it over and over again. They struggle to wield any arms. They fight as though they were all honey-mazed. But so do the outlaws who clamber to board your vessel. Pirates drop languidly into the red waves as your crew repels them. The youthful naturalist bashes a mercenary with an especially thick encyclopedia, and the fellow falls overboard as a drunk might stumble into the gutter. Will we try navigating the clotting currents? Let's see what happens. As you direct the helmsman, rapidly adjusting to account for newly formed clots, the youthful naturalist leans overboard to break them apart with a spare harpoon. "This is worse than an ice field!" he shouts. But the other vessels are also struggling. One sloop runs aground on a gigantic scab. Another nearly capsizes when a great pustule erupts, blowing rancid sea foam overhead. You sail around the carnage, following the currents like a surgeon sliding a meticulous scalpel through the Untersee's autonomy. We can coordinate an attack against the Fluke's Folly. "I know what to do!" shouts the youthful naturalist, pointing to the tripods. "All this blood, and it's so sticky, almost like resin or paste. It's got an oily texture too, not normal. More than just blood. If we can tip the tripods..." He doesn't have time to explain. Leaping from a yardarm, another corsair rides a swinging rope from the Fluke's Folly. He lands on your deck with such force that her boots splinter planks. She unsheaths her sword, points the tip directly at your heart. She's come a long way from the blind helmsman. "Surrender," he says. "No mortal force can resist the Presta." On guard. I think I need to change my outfit again. Hang on. Not wearing. Dueling the masked corsair. There's no doubt about it. She's the same rowdy corsair from London, but she's not so rowdy anymore. Her tone is portentous, as though she were making pronouncements from a church pulpit, and her face is concealed by a fine new lacquer mask. Its edges are flush with her skin. You could not pry it off without a knife. "I'll deal with the tripods," says the youthful naturalist. "You deal with her." Wonderful. Okay, no hesitation, no quarter. We shall attack. Ouch. Here's a sword. This one will do. Or so you might have thought, until you stab her with the blade and she simply continues to advance, letting it sink deeper, skewering herself without so much as a grunt to express discomfort. Her mask is less than an inch from your own face when you feel a sharp pain in your side. Submit to the presbyter. Surrender the heretic. "Don't listen to her," cries the youthful naturalist, his last words before he leaps across the narrow space between your vessel and the fluke's folly. I'm going to spend a hard-earned action here. Let's try again. No hesitation, no quarter. We failed again. One more time here. This is the re-roll. Oh my god. Screams, pistols, great flames leaping, sparks cascade into the Z as the youthful naturalist overturns a monstrous tripod. More topple like dominoes, dousing the enemy's decks with oil. Even the blood is burning. Then he's scrambling for a rope, desperately trying to swing back. Everything is a shimmering haze. The masked corsair ripples like a mirage. Is the youthful naturalist shouting to you, or is that your bosun's voice? Let's fight through the rising smoke. Your eyes sting. Incense floods into your lungs. Focus. Embers rift through the air like burning butterflies. The masked corsair raises her sword to strike, and then a flagpole topples, falling from the fluke's folly to smash into another ship. Not yours. No, yours is cutting through the waves, even if you can't guide the helmsman. Your nose is filled with roses, roasting flesh, charred wood, a metallic tang of blood and blade, and your thoughts are filled with a blackness like pitch, like the sticky tar that sailors use to slather planks to seal their ships against the Z, just as your mind is sealed against. By the time you regain your senses, the pirate fleet is ablaze. You're far enough away to watch the flotilla smoulder. The stench is like a tannery crematorium rolled into one. Not all the ships are burning. Some have managed to avoid the worst and are circling the wreckage to pick out any survivors. But the Z's surface itself is aflame, with the bloody waves popping and sizzling like an enormous greasy hide, trimmed from some beast with enough fat to feed the inferno for days. You can study the smouldering fleet. You're still disoriented, but you can manage to look through a spyglass. So much for the fluke's folly, and the tender widow, and the cavalier, and the last laugh. But one vessel floats beyond the flames. It is a black brig with black sails. You focus your spyglass. Now you see the blood being pumped in fresh gouts from the brig, as another ship might pump out bilge water, spreading the crimson tide in its wake. It is the Delight, a vessel from the elder continent. You focus your spyglass again, and you see the masked corsair stalking its deck. "I was more worried about you than her," says the youthful naturalist. He holds smelling salts to your nose, inspiring a fog to lift. "You might have escaped, but she's only a thrall. Look again." Let's look closer at the Delight. The masked corsair isn't the only figure your eyeglass clarifies. Other sailors aboard the Delight are wearing masks. Lacquer, stone, something smooth like tallow or beeswax. And towering over them by at least 3 feet, wrapped in a great peacoat buttoned snug as a straitjacket, their commander also lifts a spyglass with a gangly, clawed limb to look at you. When the Presbyter sat down to his table, so the story goes, he bade his cupbearer to wait always at his right hand, for the table was too long. He needed a second cupbearer to bring wine from the other end, larger, stronger than the first. In order to carry the wine, must have been a big bottle. And this second cupbearer he bade to wait at his left hand, until such times as he saw fit to send someone on errands, to the market and so forth. You cannot see the commander's face. An extensively knotted cravat obscures any mouth or nose, and the traditional sailor's cap covers the rest. Cupbearer is a rough translation. Verger, valet, butler, sacristan, call it whatever you like. You don't want to be brought back from the market. The second sacristan lowers its spyglass as you lower yours. We should keep sailing, says the Youthful Naturalist. Now. I'm tempted to agree with you, my friend. I still haven't found Port Cecil, though, so bear with me. Okay, I made it back to London. This wasn't really part of the plan here. But while I am in London, I can now go to my possessions. And, is it puzzling maps? You make some puzzling maps? No, that's a relatively safe Z lane. That is how you get a relatively safe Z lane, and then I think it's puzzling maps I need here. Partial. Aha, here we go. Decipher a less known route to a busy port. The queues for mooring at Port Cecil are notoriously interminable. These maps suggest a back way through the knife-sharp reef, one that could dodge the rush. So this is going to use 8 partial maps, and you get partial maps from Z stories. You can upgrade existing ones, or hopefully you have these already. Each fragment of map uses different names for the same landmarks, and none of them are drawn to the same scale. Nonetheless, you're able to discern a narrow passage through the labyrinth of coral, separate from the main thoroughfares. Perhaps Port Cecil will be a productive place to visit. You may now choose to sail to the principles of coral from your cabin, accessible via Wolfstack docks. Hindsight, I should have done that before I started the damnable story, but hey-ho. Wolfstack docks? I'm already in Wolfstack docks. Look to see. Captain's cabin. You can chart a course to the principles coral. Crumpled convolutions of coral fill the water, glimmering with silvery light. The harder you look, the more you see shapes amid the chaos, almost as if they were sculpted. A bright crag of silver coral, once a sleepy imperial outpost, now a new piece in the great game of industry and capital. Sail to Port Cecil, a ramshackle explosion of timber clinging to the coral like a limpet. Hopefully we don't come across any more bloody pirates. And here we are, at Port Cecil, arriving at port, at last, the sight of land and relative safety. The coral tints the black Z silver and silhouettes the listing hovels of the port. There are great black rents up to the island's flank where it has been shorn of its coral cladding. You join the mass of ships flocking toward Port Cecil, moths the prophet's flame. And I think I'm going to have to cut this in half here, because it's gone on for quite a while. So I hope you enjoyed this part of the story of evolution. We have made it to Port Cecil. In the next episode we shall explore Port Cecil, but thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And as always, See you next time.